Good morning, Jeff. It's Mike Fugate with Fugate Hot Rods. I'm making you a delivery video. I'm going to start on the inside of the C10 here and just kind of go through the gauges so you know what to expect. The one that's going to be really important to you is the heat gauge. So keep in mind, in 1969, these trucks ran about 170, 180 at most, which would kind of put you about in the middle of this gauge right here. LS motors run more like 205, 210. So it's going to put you just underneath that last hatch mark right in front of the red. So like it was 10 degrees here, the thing just ran right on that spot. It'll run there if it's 10 or if it's 90 or 95. I've had this out in some pretty hot weather here like in July and August. So the temp or the fuel gauge here, I want to talk about that. I purposely ran this out of fuel just to figure out where it would go, and this 1/8 of a tank mark is your minimum. If the red line hits that 1/8 mark, you are going to run out of fuel. It will die, trust me. And transmission temp gauge. This is a gauge that will help you monitor the transmission temperature. And a high mark on that would be 180, 185. When you're going down the road, it's going to loaf along underneath 140. And sometimes you're going to wonder, I don't even know if this gauge is working because it lays down low. What makes heat is when the converter is slipping, like stop and go traffic. If you do any parading or anything like that, that will generate a lot of heat. I mean, if you end up doing a brake stand or anything like that, that generates heat, and you'll see that on the gauge. 180 is that top mark that you want to keep underneath. Manual oil gauge, this thing holds great oil pressure. It's going to be in that 3/4 mark over in there. Never had any issues with that. I'm going to turn this key on and let this radio boot up. So a couple of things about the radio. One, I've got the manual that I will be putting in the console. So any of these questions and things you want to figure out, you'll have a manual there, but I just kind of wanted to go over this real quick. This is a Bluetooth compatible radio, so if you want to use your phone via Bluetooth, you can just go to this source button right up here, and it'll go through whether it's on tuner or Bluetooth or Pandora, any of those things. You can also put manual USB plug in here and wire it right directly to your phone. This is the phone button here for if you want to pick up a call or hang up a call, and the microphone is right up here beside the mirror. So hey, it works really, really good too, by the way. I've had some good feedback on that, and no background noise and stuff. People can hear you real well. So I want to go over this AC real quick. This is a vintage air control panel, and this is factory stuff right here, and it used to control the fan. The fans now are all controlled by these 3 levers: the fan, the heat, and the AC. You will never use this piece right here. It's only for looks, so it makes it look just like the new one, or like it did in its original. So the top bar right here, you push this thing over, infinitely variable fan speed. You can hear it increasing. And this one takes you from dash to floor and then to defrost. When you put that over to defrost, it will automatically engage the AC compressor to squeeze moisture out of the air. And then of course this last is just your hot and cold. So heat, if you ever need heat down there. But over here is where you'll probably run the majority of the time into that cold, and that will enable the AC compressor. Back here, I wanted to talk about this shifter. This is a B&M hammer shifter. So I want you to learn how to run this, and this is the release right here to take it out of park. So just squeeze it up, and you can go into reverse, neutral, drive, and if you want to do any ratchet shifting, you can just pull it back, second, and first. Now when you go back, it'll only go 1 gear at a time. So there's your first, second, third, or drive. Here's the thing that you really need to understand. When you want to go to park, you can do that from drive, you can do that from reverse only. So lift it up, I'm in drive, go right park. And if you are in reverse, same thing. But if you're in neutral, you gotta make, you can. Oh, I stand corrected. I didn't think you could go from neutral. Yeah, here you go. It is right. When you shift that thing into neutral, she's locked out. Drive, I can do it. So, to park from either reverse or drive. Lift up, push forward. Cup holders. And if you look in here, I know it's going to be dark, but you'll see that little blue light. That's a double port USB charger in there. And just to the right of that, Jeff, is a vehicle anti-theft device. It's nothing more than just a button that disables the starter. Just push in on it, let up, it's disabled. Push again, it will enable. I use that for when I'm like showing and I want to have the vehicle open and I just want to make sure it's secure, and that's a really good way to disable the starter. So I think that is about everything that you'll need to know in here. Remember, the manual for the radio will be in the console. I know you'll have questions on how to do that or how to pair, and that'll get you through that. Going underneath the hood. So let's start with the brake system. The brake fluid that you need here is DOT3, no synthetics, and this is a hydro boost system right here, which means it uses the pressure from the power steering system to create boost. It is not a vacuum system, it's a hydraulic system. That's a factory system like on Astro vans and our early Chevy pickups, early 2000s, late 1990s. Everything's stock. Those are stock lines in there, stock booster. So it's a really good system. Now, if you ever notice that you're sliding the rear tires, this is a bias valve, and you screw it down and it will reduce braking pressure to the back, and that will help you balance the system. I've got it working real nice for the way that I drive. It should work from you, but if it needs any tuning, that's something that you can do. So make sure you use really good power steering fluid in that. Don't cheat and use automatic transmission fluid like some people do. Ethanol green, ethanol glycol, antifreeze is what you'll use in this. And I wanted to point out, there is a little spit tank here. It says Moroso on it. And these systems, they'll find their happy place. So if you fill this thing absolutely full, coolant will expand, spits it in this tank, and then the radiator will be happy. There is a little drain on the bottom of this. It's just a little valve, it's got a rubber hose off of it, and you can drain that down every now and then if you want to, but it will get happy in your climate. Right now, I filled it pretty full just so we don't miss. And the AC system here is 134A, and if you look on the top of the receiver dryer, there's a sight glass. So that will help you keep an eye on the level. When it's running, cycling, compressors on, most of that glass will be clear, which means no air in there. But if you see it getting foamy and aerated, it's just a tick low on Freon. You will see some bubbles here and there, but if the system gets to where it's not cooling to your satisfaction, take a look at that. So this cooling package up here, we got radiator, AC condenser, and then this is your transmission cooler. So the only thing that makes that transmission cooler work is two things: air coming across it via road speed, or the fans will draw air across, and a stall converter creates heat, a lot of heat. So that's something that we want to make sure you keep an eye on. And Jeff, one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to put you a manual override switch on this, and so you can turn the fans on and off at your own want. Like if you would get into a lot of stop and go traffic and you get, you want to make sure you control it yourself, you can do that. The system takes care of its own self. It's got a computer on it. It senses when the AC is on, It will start the fans anytime there's high pressure in the system. It senses when the coolant temperature via this little switch underneath the top radiator hose. It knows when it gets up to about 200, it will kick the fans on. An override switch is just something for your peace of mind. And I wanted to point this out. This is a Holley HP carburetor. There is no choke on these. They're performance minded. So when you start it up, you'll probably have to help this car along, you know, for a minute or something until there's some heat in it, and then it'll run fine. This switch that I'm pointing to right now, that is an air conditioning idle switch. So when the compressor engages, it puts a load on the engine and it will drag that idle from like 1,000 or 900-ish down to 650. Well, when you're at a stop sign, this is the only time that you will have to do anything with this switch whatsoever. It's all automatic. Turn the air conditioner on, it's ready to engage. But you at a stop sign, if the engine is kind of struggling, all you got to do is just barely tap that throttle and it will extend that switch and it'll pop that idle up to 1,000 RPMs. That's designed by Holley. I wish it was all automatic and you didn't have to touch the throttle pedal, but you will get so used to that, it'll be second nature. Going down the road, don't have to do anything. It'll take care of itself. Only at that stop sign, when the air conditioning compressor engages, will you have to do anything. So there's the MSD 6LS box that provides the ignition spark for all of these coils that you're seeing there. There is a main fuse that's in here that's 40 amp. I just wanted you to see where that is for all the accessories in the cab. The regular fuse box is still intact. Jeff, anything that I added on, I have paper tags that I print out, pinch around the wire, and everything is right down there. Fuse box is right down by the driver's left foot. And I'll give you a quick shot of that. So that fuse box is right underneath that brake pedal. And I know it's dark, but you'll see it in there, and you'll see a lot of these little tags like I'm pointing my finger to right here. So, last items, we talked about fuel. So I think you see my little video where you open this door up and you can just push down on the bed mat, lift up, take your finger, lift her up, and there is your tank. Fuel for this, we'd mentioned that. Try to put that 91 octane premium in it. It'll be a lot happier. If you put cheap gas in it, it will want to run on. So if you use 87 octane, you'll hear that when you turn the key off, it'll want to keep running on a little bit. If you get stuck, have to use it, it'll be fine. Just the next time you fill it, put the premium in it and everything will be good. Transmission fluid. I use Valvoline in that, so it's a Dex Merc is what they call it. They don't make straight Dexton like they used to. And then differential, I use Castor Oil 8090. And if you do change that, fully change it, you'll want to put the posi traction additive in it. But all those fluids right now are new. You don't have to worry about any of that. And if I did forget to mention, the oil that I run in the engine, you'll see that the oil cap says 530, but I put 1030 because you're in a warmer environment in there. And I use Valvoline synthetic blend on that. So that's a good choice for oils on this truck. Last item I want to talk to you about is the brake system. If you need brake pads, this is a factory setup for like GM trucks, late 90s, early 2000s, Silverado 1500. So dual piston caliper in the front, single piston caliper in the back, but those factory pads will work. So I service the engine, I grease the chassis, everything here is going to be good to go. The only thing you're going to have to do is clean it up a little more underneath. It's still 9 degrees here today, and it's hard for me to do any more than clean by hand here in my shop. But anyway, I hope you get a lot of enjoyment out of this truck. Thank you again. You've been great to work with, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.